Stella McCartney. Gucci. I don't know this. You?
Your bathrobe? That looks like...
Bed Bath & Beyond?
For months, the whisper of speculation had run like electricity through the veins of Hollywood and across every corner of the internet, with fans and tabloids alike convinced that something beyond friendship must exist between Sam Heughan, the Scottish actor whose portrayal of Jamie Fraser in Outlander had made him an international star, and Dakota Johnson, the daughter of Hollywood royalty whose quiet elegance and refusal to play into the typical celebrity circus had earned her both admiration and mystery. And yet as their paths crossed publicly, whether at awards shows, at after-parties, or even in the grainy photographs of them slipping into a car after dinner, the public became obsessed with constructing a narrative that was more fantasy than reality. A narrative fueled not only by furtive glances caught on camera and the playful banter that seemed to pass between them, but by silence. The silence of two actors who refused to feed the fire. And in that absence of clarity, the fire of speculation burned hotter. Hashtags like #Samoda trended worldwide, and entire accounts were dedicated to piecing together every smile, every word, every ambiguous social media post into a tapestry of supposed love. But silence cannot last forever. And on the early hours of September 3rd, at 3 o'clock in the morning London time, Sam, who had always been notoriously private about his personal life, finally broke the stillness with an act as simple as it was shocking. He posted a nearly 7-minute video to his personal Instagram, a gesture so rare from him that fans knew instantly something important was coming. There was nothing glamorous about the recording. He wore a simple charcoal sweater. He sat in an ordinary living room softly lit by warm light, and there was no music, no effects, just his familiar deep voice and his searching eyes, the unfiltered human behind the celebrity, as he began. I know there's been a lot of speculation lately. Some of it is funny, some of it goes too far, and I think it's time to set the record straight. Those words, spoken gently but firmly, immediately shook the digital world, and within minutes thousands were recording, transcribing, sharing, flooding platforms with fragments of his speech, desperate to hold onto every sentence, and yet nothing could prepare them for what he was about to reveal, because he did not announce a love affair, nor did he deny one in blunt terms. Instead, he chose something subtler, deeper, more complicated, and more human. He leaned forward slightly, his hands clasped as if to steady himself, and said, "Dakota and I knew each other before anyone knew. It wasn't a love story like in the movies. It was something else, something more real, and also more unbelievable." There was a pause then, a silence heavy with the weight of what could follow, his eyes wandering as though words were failing him. But this was not the rehearsed cadence of an actor delivering lines. This was Sam as he rarely allowed himself to be seen. Genuine, vulnerable, almost hesitant. "We first met in 2019, he continued, at a small after-party in New York after a movie premiere. I had just finished filming the 5th season of Outlander, and Dakota was deep into independent projects. There were no fireworks, no cinematic romantic glances across the room. We were just two strangers sitting next to each other, talking about herbal tea and old Ingmar Bergman films." He chuckled softly at the memory, as though he too found the ordinariness of it surreal in contrast to what the world had since made of their connection. "We became friends. The kind of friend you can text at 2 a.m. to say you can't sleep because a scene won't leave your head. The kind of person who'll honestly tell you that you've just chosen the worst suit in the history of red carpets." The anecdote drew laughter from those watching live, laughter tinged with relief and curiosity, because it sounded real, grounded, human, a reminder that celebrities too had. Friendships built on mundane conversations and late-night confessions. But the world, always hungry for romance, could not help but read between the lines, asking, was friendship all it was, or was there something more in the pauses, in the way his eyes softened when he spoke her name? He went on, weaving fragments of their shared history, not as a timeline of lovers, but as the uneven rhythm of a friendship that ebbed and flowed with life's demands. Time passed. Things happened. There were stretches when we barely spoke for a year. Then there were those moments when a random text would appear. "Remember that time we got lost in Florence?" And it felt like no time had passed at all. He let the words hang, offering no grand revelation, no neat label, and perhaps that was the most disarming part of his statement, that he refused to conform to the binary of either just friends or secret lovers. Instead, he presented a truth that was harder to package into headlines but infinitely more believable. That in a world obsessed with defining relationships, some connections defy categories, some exist in the liminal space between public expectation and private reality, some are not meant to be dissected into hashtags or speculated into romances. And yet, even as he spoke, fans were already debating, already reading into tone and phrasing, into the moments where he faltered, because the very humanity of his delivery made it impossible not to wonder if the pauses concealed deeper feelings unspoken. What Sam did in that 7-minute video was more than end rumors. It challenged the public's right to demand definitions from him, from Dakota, from anyone whose life happens to be lived under relentless scrutiny. He did not feed the fantasy, nor did he aggressively shatter it. Instead, he offered a layered truth, one that acknowledged intimacy without sensationalizing it, one that showed respect for Dakota by refusing to reduce her to a rumor, one that revealed himself as a man. And so, in the end, what remained was not the speculation but the image of Sam in his charcoal sweater, seated in the warm glow of an unremarkable living room, speaking not as the global star but as a man weary of untruths, as a friend defending another friend, as a human being reminding millions that not every meaningful relationship must be labeled, defined, or turned into a love story. What remained was the reminder that sometimes the most unbelievable thing in a world addicted to spectacle is the possibility that truth itself,
I don't know about you, but I get really overwhelmed with kind of content overload of like, what am I supposed to watch on all of the platforms with all of the amazing...
In an age where celebrity culture thrives on speculation, fantasy, and the collective desire to project imagined narratives onto the lives of public figures, few events manage to stop the constant noise of gossip and force people to re-examine the boundaries between private truth and public myth. Yet this is precisely what happened when Sam Heughan, the Scottish actor adored by millions for his role in Outlander, appeared on social media and, with a calm yet earnest voice, uttered words that reverberated through the virtual world. "I don't know if this will disappoint you, but I think it's time to be honest. We never dated." In that instant, the machinery of rumor, the breathless blogs, the conspiracy threads, and the millions of fan speculations seemed to collide against an immovable wall of sincerity, and social media erupted into a frenzy of comments, shares, and debates, thousands upon thousands of voices pouring into the digital void, some expressing shock and heartbreak, others disappointment at the shattering of a fantasy they had carried for years, and yet many more expressing admiration and even gratitude for the candor of a man who dared to strip away illusion in an industry that thrives on feeding it. For months, perhaps even years, whispers had circled that Sam and Dakota Johnson, the elegant and often enigmatic actress whose filmography spans blockbusters like 50 Shades and acclaimed independent projects, were more than friends, that the furtive glances exchanged at award shows, the warm embraces caught by long lenses, the ambiguous captions on social media were all fragments of a hidden romance waiting to be uncovered. Yet Sam, in that moment, clarified with disarming simplicity, "We were so close. We could have been everything apart from the kind of love you're imagining. I understand why people speculate, because we clicked, because we were close, but sometimes deep friendship is even rarer than romantic love." It was a statement that defied the binary logic that the public so often imposes upon men and women, where intimacy is interpreted only through the lens of romance and tenderness is seen as possible only within the confines of desire. For what Sam proposed was an altogether different paradigm. That of a chosen kinship, a platonic love grounded not in passion but in fidelity, not in possession but in presence, not in fleeting romance but in enduring companionship. And it was precisely this paradigm that Dakota Johnson, with her own characteristically understated yet piercing eloquence, affirmed hours later when she, who is known for her guarded privacy, stunned both media and fans alike by sharing a handwritten letter on her Instagram page. An ivory sheet of paper bearing thin, even handwriting, photographed and posted with the caption that spoke of nothing more than intimacy and courage. "To my Scottish friend," the letter began, its tone immediately evoking both warmth and gravity. The kind of phrase that signals not distance but chosen proximity. As if in naming him thus, Dakota was not only acknowledging Sam's national identity, but also embedding within it a layer of affection and playful honor. And in the body of the letter she wrote words that would echo through countless headlines, fan discussions, and cultural analyses. Sam, I watched your video 3 times. Once to listen, once to laugh, and once to cry. Not because you made me sad, but because you said something the world rarely hears. That a man and a woman can choose each other, not to love, but to never lose each other. I know if we ever dated, the press would go crazy, conspiracy theories would proliferate, but I'm proud that we've kept something more beautiful than a secret love affair. A bond without a definition, without strings attached. You once said, "Not everything deep needs a label." I agree. I still keep my wedding ring, though just in the movies. And the letter closed with the simple yet powerful sign-off. With love, Dakota. In those words, Dakota not only confirmed the truth Sam had revealed but also expanded it, bringing to light an entire philosophy of human connection that challenged the contemporary obsession with categorization. The relentless compulsion to label every relationship, to assign it to a box, to stamp it with lover, partner, friend, or other. For what she and Sam declared together, though separately, was that there exists a form of intimacy which slips past all these definitions, a rare communion that neither rejects the possibility of romance nor collapses into it, a closeness that is not reduced by its lack of erotic charge but magnified by its refusal to conform, and in doing so they elevated their friendship from private arrangement to cultural testimony. The letter went viral within hours, shared across Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook, translated into multiple languages by fans, analyzed in think pieces, and quoted in countless comment sections, as netizens expressed a wide range of emotions. Surprise at the sudden revelation, admiration for the courage it took to challenge Hollywood's unwritten rule that intimacy must equal romance, and deep emotion at the rare beauty of a friendship uncorrupted by desire. Some confessed that they felt cheated, that their fantasy of Sam and Dakota as lovers had been stolen away. But even these fans admitted that the truth carried a kind of nobility, a resonance that no scandal could achieve, and what unfolded over the next days was nothing short of a media explosion, as newspapers and magazines that usually thrive on romantic rumors found themselves compelled to dedicate front-page space not to a love story but to a story of friendship, to a narrative where the absence of romance became more compelling than its presence. The Guardian wrote, "It's not love, it's something more lasting," reframing the entire discourse away from ephemeral passion towards enduring bond, while the New York Times declared, "Sam, the man who dared to say no to Hollywood's fantasy," acknowledging that in refusing the easy publicity of a romantic rumor, Sam had instead chosen a harder path, one of truth, of resistance against the commodification of human connection. Vanity Fair, never one to shy away from cultural commentary, framed it as a watershed moment, and even late-night comedians, who might have been expected to mock the revelation, instead found themselves drawn into the deeper implications, with Stephen Colbert quipping on The Late Show, "Not only did Sam shatter millions of hearts hoping for a movie couple, but he also made us wonder, when was the last time you actually called someone your best friend without being suspected of being your lover?" In that moment, humor itself became a vehicle for truth, revealing how distorted the cultural imagination has become, how unable it is to accommodate intimacy without sexuality, affection without romance, depth without labels. What made this episode more than a passing celebrity headline was precisely its power to catalyze a larger conversation about the very nature of relationships in the modern world. For in exposing the truth of their bond, Sam and Dakota inadvertently invited millions to reflect upon their own lives, to ask themselves uncomfortable yet liberating questions. How many friendships had been lost to suspicion, to gossip, to partners who could not accept a closeness that did not fit into conventional categories? How many times had people been told that a man and woman cannot simply be friends, that the undercurrent of attraction must always exist, and yet how many had, in their own quiet lives, experienced precisely what Sam and Dakota described? A friendship that outlasted crushes, that survived romances, that held firm through the passing of years and fame and distance. In Jungian terms, one might say that what Sam and Dakota revealed was the archetype of syzygy in its platonic form, the union of masculine and feminine not in the realm of eros but in the realm of psyche, where each sees in the other not a romantic object but a mirror of wholeness, a balancing presence, an anima and animus exchange that strengthens rather than consumes. In symbolic terms, their friendship became a kind of ring. Not the wedding ring Dakota jokingly referenced from her films, but a circle without beginning or end, a bond beyond time, beyond label, beyond cultural expectation. And it is perhaps for this reason that their story struck such a deep chord, for in an age of fleeting connections, of performative love on social media, here were two people choosing a deeper, quieter form of loyalty, one that demanded no explanation but offered itself as testimony nonetheless. As the headlines proliferated, as interviews were replayed, as fans debated whether they still secretly hoped for romance, what lingered most strongly was not disappointment but a sense of relief, as if in bearing witness to Sam and Dakota's honesty people were freed, if only briefly, from the tyranny of labels, from the exhausting need to define and categorize, and were instead allowed to rest in the simple, radical truth that sometimes the most profound bonds are those that escape definition. The cultural significance of this cannot be overstated, for when two celebrities of their stature reject the script handed to them by Hollywood and instead write their own, they shift not only fan perception but also the wider cultural imagination, challenging prejudices, reshaping norms, and expanding the vocabulary of love and friendship. That is why the story did not vanish like most gossip does, but instead lingered, appearing in editorials, academic blogs, podcasts on relationships, and even classroom discussions, where teachers used it to illustrate the power of friendship, the value of honesty, and the courage it takes to speak truth in a world addicted to fantasy. Sam and Dakota's moment of truth became, paradoxically, larger than any romance could have been, for it revealed something most people secretly long for but rarely see modeled at the highest levels of visibility.